Hey, 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 you're now tuned in to Underdog Talk. I'm your host, Eric Jones Jr., the underdog with a rogue heart, and I have conversations with successful underdogs. And today we have successful underdog Bryan Clayton. How are you doing today, sir?
Eric, I'm great. Thanks for having me on your show. It's good to be here.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for being on, and thank you for being able to add some value to the audience and myself as well, because you kind of have a different business than what most normal people, with tech business, of what they think of. So before we get into our conversation, today's episode is brought to you by christiandewan.com. Well, Christian Dewan clothing line. christiandewan.com is the website. That's my own personal brand, me and my son. You can get hoodies, t-shirts, sweatshirts, and if you use the promo code underdog, and underdog is spelled right above my head, talk, you get 15% off. And yeah, go support, go grab a t-shirt, especially if you're a teacher. I got some teacher, if you're in the school system, I got shirts for I think almost everybody in the school system. They'll be out this week. So go and check the website out. So we have CEO and co-founder of GreenPal. What is GreenPal, and what service do you, or what value do you add?
Yeah, GreenPal is a mobile app that works like Uber, but for landscaping services. So if you're a homeowner and need somebody to come mow your yard rather than calling around all over Facebook or Craigslist, you just download our app, GreenPal. You pop your address in, you get quotes from lawn care guys. You can hire the one you want to work with. They come out and do it like magic. So you just push a button, somebody comes and mows your yard. GreenPal is like a 10-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this business for a little over a decade. First 5 or 6 years were really, really tough getting the mobile app going, getting the mobile app built, getting the marketplace going. But over a long period of time, we've built out a nationwide network. Now we're live in every major city in the United States. Over 300,000 people using our app to get gardening services done, and still growing 40, 50% year over year. So I guess you could say we're a 10-year overnight success.
I love it. I love it, man. That's dope. Like, cause if me thinking about me growing up, I wish I would have had that service. I hated cutting grass. I hated it. I To this day I won't cut grass. So if I ever date a woman, she's like, "You gonna go out there and cut?" No, I'm not cutting grass. I will pay somebody to cut the grass. That is not my ministry. That's not nothing I'm about. So how did you come up with that idea? Was it something you came up with? You said you had some partners, or was it something like, how did that come up? How did that spark up? Because I mean, that's a not something that, I mean, it's outside the box, but then it's something you can maybe like, oh, we could do this and see how it works. So how did that come about for you guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think when you're starting a new product, a new technology product, authenticity can be your competitive advantage. And so for me, my first business was a lawn mowing business. I started mowing grass in high school as a way to make extra cash, and little by little grew my little lawn mowing business into a large landscaping company over about 15 years. So I grew from just me and a push mower to me and 150 employees, 90 trucks over a 15-year period of time. Ended up being one of the larger landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee where I live. And in 2013, I was able to get that business acquired by a national landscaping company. So I took that business from zero to $10 million a year in revenue, and then all the way through exit, which doesn't really happen that very often in the landscaping business. After I sold the business, I thought, well, what am I going to do with my life now? What? I need a mission. I need something to work on, because I didn't really understand that my business is a part of me. My business is what gets me out of bed in the morning. And when I sold it, it was gone, and I was like, there was something missing. So I thought, well, what now? And I'm observing what Airbnb and Uber and at the time Lyft were doing for kind of real world experiences through a mobile app. And I thought, somebody is going to build an app for the industry that I know. It might as well be me. How hard could it be? And it was kind of naivete as an asset. I didn't really understand how challenging it was going to be to get this app going, but I just got in there and recruited two co-founders. We started working, and we never looked back. And the first few years were really, really hard, but we kind of just stuck it out and celebrated the small wins along the way, and grew it little by little. And over time, things began to compound, and And now we have the nation's largest network of landscaping services you can hire from a smartphone.
Man, I love it. So it's something that's been in you since a child. It's like you started as a young man, like, oh, I'm just gonna cut this grass just to cut grass. Because everybody does that, cut grass, you might rake leaves, shovel, all those different things as a kid. We all tried it just to make some extra money, but you took it from making some extra money to being able to sell the business and not have to work anymore. But what I love that you said is that was a part of you. It wasn't like it was just, oh, I'm going to this job, I'm just doing it. No, that was a part of that was who you were. That's why you woke up. That's why you stayed up late. That's why you came up with the ideas. That's why you had the business. That's why you were able to sell it. And then when you sold it, it's like, okay, this is boring. What the heck am I going to do here? And you thought of the idea of like, oh, okay, they're doing this, they're doing that. Let's try it. And you say you were naive. So did you have any tech knowledge where did you have, any computer knowledge, or was it like, okay, what the heck am I doing here?
Great question. It's ideally when you start a new technology product, you get together a hacker and a hustler. So you get somebody who knows the technical side. Maybe they were tinkering with websites when they were 15 years old, and maybe they hacked into the school's computer and changed their grades or something. And they've always been oriented around the technical stuff. And then you get a hustler. You get somebody who's just driven to want to grow a business and driven to want to knock down sales quotas, and who just really wants to put a team together. And when those two people come together, you can really catch lightning in a bottle sometimes. So that's ideally how you would approach this type of situation. That is not what happened for me. I had 3 hustlers. I had 3 dudes that we kind of all knew each other. We trusted each other. We were all hardworking people. We all had a chip on our shoulder that we kind of wanted to be something more in life. And we wanted to build something big, and we wanted to create a new product, but none of us knew how to build software. And the naivete came in where we thought, well, how hard could it be? All we need to do is just pay somebody to build the tech side, and we'll market it, and we'll be off and going. And we did that, and we pulled together our money, and we spent like $150,000 with a technology development company in Nashville, Tennessee, to build what we thought GreenPal should be. And it took them 9 months to build the first app, and we released it, and it was a total failure. Dead on arrival. I mean, it didn't have the features it needed. It didn't work. It was clunky. It was hard to use. People were using it and it wasn't working. It was a total failure. And so we came to the realization that if we were going to be in the tech business, we were going to have to learn how to code. We were going to have to learn how to build software. We were going to have to learn how to do this stuff, because it really is required of you if you're going to invent something new from scratch. Looking back, it's kind of as silly as wanting to start a restaurant but with no chef, and you never cooked anything in your life. How silly would that be? That's what starting a mobile app company with nobody knows how to build software is kind of like that. So it was a hard lesson to learn, but we dusted ourselves, we picked ourselves up and dusted ourselves off, and then went to YouTube University, took every online class we could take. My co-founder went to a boot camp and learned how to build back-end software, and took us about another year. But we then began to learn the skills we needed to learn to build the product from scratch all over again. And now we're still iterating on top of that product we built nine years ago.
I love it. I want people to hear what you just said. When you start something, it doesn't have to be like a new something, but whatever you start from scratch, you want to learn the ins and outs of it. Because when you get to the point of you hiring somebody, you want to know what the heck is going on. You don't want to just hire somebody and they're doing all kinds of stuff and you don't even know how to go check and make sure everything's working, because you're like, oh, well, I got the money for it, but you need to know what's going on. So like with me, like having a clothing line and a podcast, like I do everything on my own. And it's like, I love it, but I hate it at the same time, because I wish I didn't. All I wish I had to do was just, with the podcast, just come on, hit record. I get to talk to the guests. I get to get off. And that's it. I don't have to post. I don't have to do none of that. But I understand me learning that. And then when the team comes, now I know exactly what I want and how to put it out there. And it's funny, it's kind of like you with computers. With me, I mean, with you with the lawn care. When I was like fifth grade, I was really good with computers. I took a computer apart, put it back together. Like computers was my thing. And I went to school in college for computers, didn't do anything good in school, none of that. And now everything I do is technology, and it's tech, and it's stuff that I could have learned if I would have realized that I was going to use it later down the road. And sometimes we don't understand, like, oh, well, maybe let me try this out because it can help me down the road. So you said it took you a year. Once you guys got it, and you put out that first app, did you guys create the app, or did you guys have someone come in and help you guys create it? Or was it something you did on your own?
Everything you just said is exactly how it unfolded for us. We had to do everything ourselves first before we could then begin to delegate it to specialists, freelance contractors, employees. And that's a mistake that a lot of new entrepreneurs make, is that they want to rush to the delegation piece. Maybe they watch something on Instagram. They saw some guru on Instagram Reels saying you got to delegate. And that is true. But if you delegate too soon, it can be a recipe for a disaster. It's really hard to delegate anything that you haven't done yourself. And so for us, we had to learn how to design the interface. We had to learn how to write the code that made it work on the website. And then we had to learn how to write the code that made it work behind the scenes. We had to learn how to do things like search engine optimization so people could discover it when they were looking for a lawn mowing service. All of these things we had to learn ourselves, do them ourselves for a long time, and then slowly begin to delegate these things to freelancers, contractors, employees, people that specialize in each sort of one of those tasks. There's a really good book about this called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And one of the things that author talks about is day one, when you create your business, you need to create an org chart. And you might say, well, it's just me. I don't need an org chart. I got it all right here. Well, when you create an org chart, it's like you, CEO, and then there's head of customer service, maybe there's head of R&D, head of marketing, and then there's head of SEO, and there's head of social media marketing. There's all of these names on this org chart, and it's your name on all of the. There's all these roles on the org chart, and it's your name on all the roles. As time goes on, then you can peel your name off and delegate those things to people who specialize in them. But at first, you got to do it yourself.
Yep. That's exactly it. And so you already had a business. You had this business for all these years. Now you got something new. Was this harder than running the business, or was it like equal? Like learning something new, starting kind of over, and then creating a new business from something you don't even know, like you didn't go to school for it or anything, or was it like harder running a business that you already knew?
It's a great question. Here's what I thought. So I spent 15 years in the landscaping business, 150 employees, over 90 trucks going out. I mean, we had like 400 lawnmowers. I mean, it was a big business, and every day was just chaos. Every day was organized chaos. Yeah, I had systems in place and it ran pretty smooth, but there was always something. There was always a fire burning somewhere. And it was a hard business to run. It was very hands-on. It was very hand-to-hand combat. And so when I sold the business, and even selling the business was a challenge. When I sold the business, got that done, I thought, whew, that was really tough. I don't want to do anything that hard again in my life. I want to start an easy business. So I'm going to start a software business because that will be so much easier. Then when I got into the game of building a software company, an app, I quickly realized, like, whoa, this is 10 times harder than that last business. And what I didn't understand was creating a new product from scratch, inventing a new product is a lot more difficult than running a known business model. So like inventing let's say starting a new restaurant business is tough. It's going to require 7 days a week. It's going to be your soul into that business to get it going. That's really hard. But let's say you wanted to invent a vending machine that will make a pizza and spit it out the bottom when you put your credit card in. That's like 10 times harder than opening a pizza restaurant. And so I didn't know that. I didn't understand the difference between running a traditional business and inventing a new product and then creating a business around that product. It's 10 times harder. And so if I had known how hard it was going to be, I never would have done it. but luckily I didn't know how challenging it was going to be, because now looking back 10 years into this project, I'm a completely different person, and I've learned all kinds of skills I never would have otherwise learned, and we've got a good business going. But the first 5-6 years were challenging.
I love what you said. You said if you would have known how hard it would have been, you probably wouldn't have done it. And that's a lot of our dreams and goals and things that we really, like you said, it helped you become a better person. It helped you learn stuff you might not have learned if you did it. And going through that process, you gotta trust. You gotta trust the process. You gotta trust everything that's going on. You like, oh, I didn't expect it to be this hard. Oh, you know, because when we look on social media or we look at our friends, we're like, oh, that don't look that hard. And then when you actually look at the work that's put in, it's kind of like, oh, people think Steph Curry just woke up and he's just Steph Curry. No. He had to work. He had to go to the gym. He had to do all that different stuff. And if he probably would have known it had been that hard, maybe he might not have played basketball. Maybe he wanted to go to the league. But it's about going through what's hard. It's about learning them lessons. It's about like, oh, well, I've already did this over here. I've accomplished all that. Yeah, you accomplished that, but you didn't accomplish this. But since you did have a business and you were able to accomplish that, helped you get through the adversity of starting a new business. And I think sometimes we don't realize our adversity early in life, or adversity that happens, is preparing us for our future. And then when we get to our future, we're like, okay, this is hard, but I can get through this. I remember whatever was going on. Like you said, you had organized chaos. I love that. Like sometimes it's just chaos.
Yeah.
But if you have organized chaos, it's like when the chaos happens, it's like, okay, we're prepared for this. But if you don't, if you're not prepared, then chaos can turn your whole business upside down and inside out. So when you're starting a business, when you're an early entrepreneur, don't be unorganized. Be organized. Be prepared. Like you said, you had a system in play. And you have to. The question I'm gonna ask. You said they were your friends. How did that work with them being your friends and then starting a business? Because sometimes I've tried some businesses with my friends and it didn't work out. So how did it work out with you guys being friends? Were you guys friends first, or did you guys like start business then become friends?
We were acquaintances, and so that it was more of a trust thing. I knew that I could trust them, and I saw something in them that I was looking for, somebody that I would want to be in business with, and that was it's like grit and a determination and literally a chip on their shoulder. Like they had something they wanted to prove. They weren't happy with their current position in life, and they were willing to do whatever it took to be successful in a project like what we were wanting to take on. My advice around business partners is to try to go it alone, because for me, I got really lucky. I got two co-founders that were just as relentless and ambitious about getting this thing going as I was, but that's not always the case. And a lot of times bad co-founder dynamics kills a business more than anything, because the co-founders are fighting. They're not on the same page. There's animosity that one is picking up more slack than the other. So my advice is to go it alone and take it as far as you can, and then maybe try to get people to help you in terms of paying them and maybe a little bit of equity or maybe a little bit of money to help you get the project off the ground, and that way you own it all and you're in charge of all. My advice for getting a co-founder is, if you had $10 million in the bank, would you write them a check for $10 million to start this business with you? And if the answer is no, then don't do it, because eventually their equity is going to be worth $10 million, or you're going to raise some funding, and the equity you have to give up to the venture capitalist could be worth $10 million. And so if you wouldn't write them a check for $10 million today, then don't start the business with them. And you really have to look at it like a marriage. You really have to look at it like, is this my business soulmate? Could I not imagine starting this business without them? And look at it that way. If the business is successful, you're going to spend more time with them than you are your actual spouse. And it's actually easier to get a divorce than it is to unwind a business partnership, as crazy as that sounds. So really think it through. Think about it like a marriage. Think about it like this is my soulmate to start this business. And if not, just go it alone. The first couple of years, you can de-risk it and figure it out on your own, the same as you could with a co-founder.
Man, you dropped some good knowledge there. So what I want people to take away, he said, if you wouldn't write them a $10 million check, and that's like, if you're starting a business, you should want to be in the millions. You shouldn't want to start something and just make some change. You should, like, the world we live in, everybody can be a millionaire. You just got to be consistent and put the work in.
That's right.
So you said if you wouldn't write them $10 million, don't be a partner. And that makes sense because you want to make probably that or more. And it's like, okay, would I give them that if I already had all this money? And then I like what you said, are they your soulmate, your business soulmate? Because you're going to spend more time with them. You're going to call them. You're going to talk to them. You're going to text. You're going to have meetings. Your family is going to be their family, like all this different stuff. And it's like, okay, that's cool. We could be friends outside here, but can we work together? Can we both, are we on the same page? And I think that sometimes happens with friends that want to start businesses, or whoever want to start. Oh yeah, you got a good idea, but it's like, do you have the same purpose? Do we have the same goals? Are we going for the same thing? Because if you're not going for the same thing, it's not going to work. It's just like sports. Like, you can have all this talent on a team, but if the goal isn't to win a championship, because somebody might be like, oh, I want to win the MVP, or I just want to win this, or we just cool with the playoffs. No, we want to win a championship. So you need to do your role. I need to do my role. They need to do their role. And then that's how you win a championship, the chemistry. So I like what you said. You trusted them. You trusted enough to start, and then you could see the value that they added, and they probably could see the value in what you added. And it's not because, oh, you're cool, I like you, we can hang out together. There's no, like, can you add value? Because if we start this business, are we going to make money? Are we going to be successful? Are we going to be able to carry this business 10 years? Are we going to be one of those businesses that start and it ends? So I love that. And I want people to really, like, this is a really good lesson. Like, a lot of people should have notes out of what's going on with entrepreneurship, because you have to be on the same page as whoever it is. It don't matter, friends, family, if it's acquaintance, whoever, you all have to be on the same page. So what are some things that you guys would do when you guys had a disagreement, when things didn't go right, when something happened in the business that's like, okay, maybe we should stop this?
Yeah, the first few years were tough. There were a lot of, I guess you could say, gut check moments where we were wondering, like, hey, is this going to work? Is this something that should we spend the next, year, 2, 3, 5 years of life on? And while it's, having a good co-founder can be the thing that helps you make or make it or not make it in business, it's important that there is one chief, that there is somebody who is going to be the CEO. There is going to be kind of the I guess you could say the tiebreaker when you come at an impasse as to where to take the company or an important decision. So for us, I had 2 co-founders, but at the end of the day, it was my idea. It was kind of my baby. I brought these folks on to help me bring to life my vision. And so when we got into those log jams, it was kind of like if it was two of us could override me. But it had to be 2 against 1. It could never be like, hey, 3 opinions. And so that's kind of how we settled some of the early disagreements. But the other thing was, we all kind of were on the same page. We all kind of had a North Star. We kind of all knew where we wanted to take the company. We kind of knew what the metrics were that mattered, and we agreed on those before we started. So it wasn't like there was a whole lot of arguments with, is this working or is this not, or what is important or what isn't. I think it's important to get on the same page day one, lay out what next year looks like, what the year after that looks like, and then work towards those goals and understand what the things are that you got to be doing every day to get there. There's a concept of output metrics and input metrics. The output metric might be, at the end of year 1, we need to be at 500K in revenue. That's great. That's a good goal. But what are the input metrics? What are the things that we got to do every single day to get to that output metric? What are the things we got to do day in, day out? And let's all agree on those things, and let's execute on that plan. And that kind of like heads off a lot of the disagreements, a lot of the mismanaged expectations. Everybody knows what they got to do to get to the goal. And a lot of times people just set goals and then don't really have a plan on how to get there. And then everybody's upset and pissed off when you don't get to the goal. So, that was something that I was able to kind of bring to the table and kind of do right the first time, because I'd made all those mistakes in my first business. And so I kind of had the scar tissue around that.
I like it that you said that you have to have a plan, because we all have goals. Everybody, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. How are you going to get there? How are you going to accomplish that goal? It's like, oh, I want to be on a basketball team, but you're not playing basketball. My son, he's on AAU team. They're young and they've lost some games, and it's like, dude, why are you sitting here on YouTube? Like, why are you not, you got a goal to win, but you don't have any action steps behind it. And it's like, you want to put a date on those goals that you have. But I like what you said. You guys sat down at day one. This is the plan. This is what we're going to do. This is we're all on the same page. And this is what we need to do every single day. And we have to execute it. And you guys, I'm sure, kept each other accountable. But I like what you say. It's like, okay, it's got to be 2 against 1. It can't be, we're going to make sure this is how we're going to run this. If I feel a certain way, it's kind of my thing. But if you guys see something that I don't see, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I'm the boss, and no, this is not what we're going to do. That's how people fail in business, because somebody wants to be a boss. Everybody, it's an equal team. Somebody has to have a role. It's not about the title. It's about the role. It's about being able to help each other out, because it could be the tech guy, the guy that puts up the videos that helps the CEO understand something else, or vice versa. And it's all about having that goal and understanding your role. Because like with sports, you're going to have a Tom Brady, but you got to have a center.
That's right.
You got to have the people blocking them. Like, you got a coach, assistant coach. You got a coach that helps with this, with all these different things. And when you guys are on the same page and you have an agreement, like, when you got to have an agreement that this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to be done. And no matter what, we have to do this every day. Because if you don't do something every day, how you think you're going to get better?
That's so true. I was listening to an interview with an Olympic coach. I can't remember what sport, but one thing he said that stuck out to me is what separates the high performers with everybody else is their ability to endure boredom. And what he meant by that was training day in, day out, 3-4 times a day, doing the same thing, getting in the reps, and those little things compounding over a long period of time is boring. And it's the ability to endure that boredom of the day-to-day grind and the little inputs on a daily basis that add up and build is what separates people who get there and people that don't.
Oh, that's so true. Because it's like, when we wake up in the morning, sometimes you wake up an hour before you're supposed to wake up. What are you going to do? You woke up to get some work done. But if your mind's not there, if that work ethic's not there, you're scrolling. You're laying in the bed. And I'm victim of that. Like, sometimes I get up and I'm like, and then sometimes I get up, turn the light on. I'm like, all right, I'm up. What can I do? Because I understand, like, sometimes whatever field I'm in, somebody might be asleep that's in the same industry as me. So if I'm up before them, I can get a edge on them. They might have the education I don't have, but I'm going to outwork them. And I was just watching this clip on Kobe. I think it was the trainer dude, Phil Harding. He was like, he asked Kobe, he's like, why are you such an asshole? He was like, what do you mean? He was like, I'll tell you why I'm an asshole. Because I'm going to practice, I'm busting my ass, and these guys are going out and they're not working on their game to get better. Why would I pass them the ball? They're not working like I'm working. Why would I pass them the ball? And when you're on a team and you have that person that's working, and you see, okay, Kobe getting this kind of contract. Oh, he's this and that. Let me try to do what he's doing. Let's see if it work out. And when you're on a team and you win that championship, guess what happens? Everybody's like that. Why do you think the Warriors have been to the finals 6 out of 8 years? The only 2 years they didn't make it, they were injured, because they all have the same work ethic. And we understand Steph is the man, But it's without Draymond, the team wouldn't work. Without Clay, it wouldn't work. Without without one of your partners, it wouldn't work. Without you, they wouldn't have, so it's all about understanding, putting in the work, and everybody putting in the work. You can't, I'll give you a perfect example. So when I was in 10th or 11th grade, I was in culinary school. I just took it just to have extra class, so I didn't have to go to regular school. You learn how to cook. I didn't cook. I had a buddy in my class. He cooked. He did all the work for the class. I got a good grade because he did a good job. But now he has a business. He has a restaurant because he put in the work. Maybe if I put in the work, maybe I could have that. But that wasn't the road for me cooking. But that's just the example of
great example.
putting the work. And now he has what he put in the work for. You put in the work from day one when you was pushing that lawnmower, and you were just, I want these new shoes, or I want these baseball cards, or whatever. And now you're a multimillionaire, got your own business app. Who would you ever would have thought when you were that kid pushing that lawnmower that you would be where you're at today?
The short answer is no. But looking back 22 years, business and the journey of starting a business and selling a business and starting another business it really does unfold like a video game almost. 10 levels of Super Mario Brothers, and you just work one level at a time. You don't worry about Bowser when you're on, level 1 or 2. And I think that holds a lot of people up. They're starting a business, they're on level 1 or level 2. They don't have 10 customers yet, and they're worried about Bowser type problems. Those things don't matter. You just got to get through that level you're on. Throw everything you got into it, all 7 days a week, your heart and soul into getting to the next level. And that's the way it unfolded for me. When it was just me and a push mower, what was on my mind was pushing this mower sucks. I want one of those $12,000 riding mowers so I can do twice the amount of stuff in a day, and I don't have to, and my feet don't hurt when I get home. So that was all that was on my mind, was getting the money to get that next level commercial grade piece of equipment. Then that was maybe level 2. And then the next thing was on my mind was, I could really use a helper, and how do I figure that out? And that was a tough level to get through because you basically double your business in one swoop. And so when I got that done, I was like, okay, well, there's 2 of us riding around in a truck. How do I get 2 of these trucks going? Maybe that was level 3. That took like 2 years to figure out. I wasn't worried about, damn, when I'm doing $5 million a year in revenue, how am I going to afford a full-time CPA? Like that doesn't matter. Get through level 3 and then worry about all the other stuff later. And I think it holds a lot of people up. Just look at it level at a time.
Yeah. That you broke that down because when you get on, it's really about social media. When you get on social media and you see somebody doing what you're doing, you're like, oh, well, their videos look like this, or they look like this, and they look like that. And it's like, well, they started somewhere. That's why, excuse me, a lot of people that I like look at podcast wise or speaking wise, I try to look at their first videos. I try to look at where they first started to see what it looked like, so I can be like, oh, it wasn't so bad. They, like you said, it's levels. It's like when you take this, you're supposed to take the stairs, take each step. Don't skip the step, because you want to get there faster. But if you take each step, you'll strengthen your calf muscles rather than just running up. Ooh, I finished. It's like my students. I'm a kindergarten teacher. Oh, I'm done. Okay, you're done, but it's wrong because you wanted to be first. You wanted to be first, and it's wrong. Don't raise your hand because, like, kids will raise their hand. Oh, what's the answer? Why'd you raise your hand? Like, you don't know because you didn't take the time to put in the work and do the step by step. Like you said, it's levels. Like, you can't start a business and be like, oh, well, I'm gonna make 10 million this year. I mean, you can, depending on what it is, but you might not. And it's okay if you don't, because you got to make sure your paperwork's right. You got to make sure you got a strategy. You got a plan. You got to make sure you got a website. You got this, you got that. You got to make sure you're doing it every day. It's That's about right. Consistency. It's about, if you don't consistently do it, then it's not going to happen. It's just like somebody that smokes cigarettes. They didn't just become a smoker overnight. They were smoking day by day and day by day, 1 pack, now 2 pack, now whatever. And now that's what they do. And it's harder to do something that, I mean, it's easier to do something that's bad for you than it is to do something that's good for you, because you don't know what the outcome is when you do something that's good for you, but you still got to do
That's
it.
we are our habits. That's so true. And you know, goals are great, but at the end of the day, you got to reward and think about the system. What is the process that you're working on a daily basis to get towards that goal? Yeah, make the goal, but the goal almost doesn't matter. The process and the system that you've built that you're going to be grinding on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to inch your way towards that goal that you need to be focused on.
Yep, a system. Like if we look at, I always go to sports. That's when like sports. The Spurs, they had a system. It didn't matter who they brought in. They were picking people from foreign countries nobody ever heard of. Put them in their system. They're winning. The Warriors winning. The Patriots winning. It's certain teams that win year after year after year after year because they have a system. They don't go outside the system. They don't they don't do anything outside that winning system, because you're supposed to do what works, work it.
That's right.
That's why a system works. You guys started a long time ago, created a system, and you guys been working it.
That's it. And you know, I love all of the sports now because there's a lot of parallels between sports and business. And one of my favorite books is a guy, I think his name is Bill Walsh. I think he was the coach for the 49ers when Joe Montana was in his heyday. And he wrote a book called The Score Takes Care of Itself. And the whole point of that book was the little things day in, day out that they changed and did in the organization that all added up a half a percent here, a percent there, and they all compounded to where on Sunday the score took care of itself. And that could be like the gardener's shirt needed to be tucked in, the receptionist at the front needed to answer the phone a certain way. When we got into the locker room, we just didn't throw our helmets onto the ground because the helmet had the 49ers logo on it, and that was disrespectful to the brand and to the mission. And all these little things that they did, like 1,000 things that all added up to where on Sunday they didn't even worry about it. Score took care of itself. And I think business is a lot that way. It's all these little things done right day in, day out, compound. They don't add up, they compound, and they build on themselves. And before you know it, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in, then you're in a whole different world because all these little things you did for a long time compounded and built up this thing that's now starting to work. And that's the way it's been for me both times building a business. You know, the first 3 or 4 years were like pushing on a string, but after I kept at it, my habits, my system, my process, my routines were around getting the business going. All of a sudden, I woke up in a different world one day. So that's advice that I like to give to people is to worry about the system. The goals almost don't even matter.
Yep. It's like Bill Belichick said, do your job. Do your job. All you have to do is do your job. If you block, all you gotta do is block. If you
Right.
receive, you run those routes, you catch the ball, just do when you do your job, especially in a business, even if you're by yourself, if you have a team, do your job. If you do your job every single day and you work on it, and like you said, you have a plan. You don't just have goals up on the board and say, oh, I want to do this. Okay, how are you going to do that? There has to be action steps to those goals, because that's just an idea if it isn't. Like you actually have to do it every single day. Like you said, routine. When you have I'm so routine. People know if you call me past 10, I'm not gonna answer the phone 9 times out of 10 because I'm asleep. I'm
I
in the
like
bed
that.
not to go to sleep because I'm routine. I go to bed early and I get up early.
Yep.
You call me like, oh, okay. I know Eric up. I know he's gonna be up because he gets up early. So it's like when you get on that routine, nothing should get you off that routine, because if it does, it'll affect what you're doing in the future. What you
That's
do
right.
today is for tomorrow, and tomorrow's not tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow is the future. It's 5 years down the road. It's 10 years down the road. Like you said, it's levels. Like when you first started, you just wanted a nice little fancy. Man, I'm tired of pushing this. I want to ride something. Oh wait, I got this now. I want this. And that's because you had a goal and you didn't go, oh, well, I got to push more. I need two riding lawnmowers and two workers in the truck. No, you didn't
Right.
jump that far. You went one by one by one, and then you build it. Now you have a company that can reach anybody because it's an app. Who would have ever thought the kid pushing the lawnmower has something that can help everybody, not just the people in his neighborhood, just not his mom and dad, friends, his family, everybody, because you took it step by step. And that's one thing that I got from you is step by step. And that is refreshing, because when you're in business and it's not looking the way you want in revenue, but you're still building, you understand at the one day you're gonna get to that point where you're like, oh, I got the money now. All those days that I was doing this, it pays off. All when I wasn't getting no sleep, when I, things wasn't going right, I still had to go work a job, whatever the case may be. You're like, who? But it's the little things. If you don't do the little things, how you gonna get the big things? It's just like if you when you win the lottery, oh, you won the lottery, but you're broke 2 years later because you couldn't handle the $10,000 that you had before the lottery.
That's
It's all
exactly
about
right. That's exactly right. And there's an example of this in the book called Atomic Habits. And I think it doesn't matter what you do, whether it's sports, business, whatever vocation you're in, it's all about habits. And he talks about, you can sit there and take an ice cube and you can put it in a Tupperware, and then you can increase the temperature from 31 to 32 degrees, and nothing's going to happen to the ice cube. And then you can increase it from 32 to 33 degrees, and then 33 to 34, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. And then when you go from 35 to 36 and 36 to 37 degrees, that ice cube starts melting. Well, that's kind of how business is. It's the first 3 or 4 degrees or years, nobody sees anything. You don't see a whole lot of change. And then all of a sudden things start working in year 4 or 5, and everybody just sees that 1 year, and then everybody wants to call you an overnight success. And that's how it always unfolds. It's like there's this below the surface, below the radar work that's going in, that's being done, that doesn't really manifest into real life examples of success yet. But as time goes on, those things compound. Then all of a sudden things start working, and then everybody says, "Oh, you got lucky." And then the people that have been there, done that, know that's funny. And so that's a good example. Just stick it out. It will, that ice cube will begin to melt. It just takes time. You got to lay that foundation.
Yeah, I like that. What you said. People will think people become an overnight. There's a small percentage of people that become an overnight celebrity, one hit wonder, but they've been doing it. They've been doing it for years and years and years. Nobody's seen them. It's like Kevin Hart.
Yep.
Oh, he started off small. He had his first movie. It didn't go so well. He's in these different movies, and now everyone knows who he is. He's in every single thing because he had that one vehicle, and he kept it going, and he kept it going, and he kept it going. And he didn't give up because his friends didn't support, his family didn't support, nobody came out to the show, whatever the case may be. It's like when you play a sport, if you get cut, okay, I got cut from this team, but I can go over here and help this team. But if you get cut and you're like, oh man, my career is over with. No, it's not. Just because one person told you no don't mean that this person over here won't tell you yes. Just because somebody didn't buy your product over here won't mean somebody won't buy your product over here. You got to just keep going. Don't let somebody tell you no and you just, oh my goodness. You know how many times I'm sure you heard no? No, I don't need you to. I don't need that help. I don't need you to. Nope, I'm good. And it's like, okay, let me go over to this neighborhood. And now this neighborhood, every house you went to, oh yeah, we need you to come here. Now you done made all the money that you thought you were going to make plus more because you were going to stick at mom's friend's house. Now you done went over here to, you don't know nobody over here because you didn't give up. And that's just how business is. That's how life is. You can't give up because you hear no or something gets hard or, life punches you in the face. You take that punch, you get up, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm going to get back on it. Man, I love this conversation. Like you've dropped a lot of knowledge and simple knowledge for people to understand and be able to take notes and be able to run a business with it, whatever that business is, because everybody's different. Like I would have never thought ever to run a lawn care service because I don't like it. That's not my ministry. I will definitely be the person that you be like, oh, I see Mr. Jones is steadily on here. I see he's making that regular. That's me,
There you
and I
go.
understand that speaking is for me. So that's what I have to do. That's my lawn care service. That's what my baby. That's what I have to do with the podcast. The same thing, and you just dropping some knowledge is like, okay, you doing what you're supposed to, Eric. Okay, maybe you need to be a little more consistent here, but you're doing something every day to work on this, and it's going to eventually happen because, like you said, it is not going. Like I've only been podcasting like 3 years, but I know something's going to happen. I've been speaking a little more than that, but I know something's going to happen because I haven't been consistent. And when you understand you haven't been consistent, you understand why you're not where you're supposed to be. So, give people that are starting a new business, no matter what it is, because all business is about the same. We all have the same goal. What 3 tips they can do today or whenever they listen to this episode, what they can do to push the needle?
Yeah. Couple things. Focus less on things that don't matter. And I know that sounds cliche, but the reality is a lot of times we get stuck in this fake work. We get stuck in things that don't matter. Maybe, you're starting a new business and you're worried about what your Instagram strategy is going to be or your TikTok strategy or whatever. And the reality is you need 10 customers. Don't worry about that stuff that doesn't matter. So take everything down to what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things I need to be doing, and don't worry about anything else. And a lot of times those 2 or 3 things relate to going out and hustling up your first dozen or so customers. I believe, like in any business, first 100, 200, 300 sales need to be hand-to-hand combat. So that's a point that I'll give. Another tip I'll give, it's kind of in the vein of what we've been talking about, is you are your habits. And in controlling our habits and managing the boredom of the grind is one of the hardest things of getting a business going. So if you're starting a business, you are your business is you. It's 7 days a week. And so what are the habits? What is the system? What is the thing you're working daily on a day in, day out business to grind your way from 0 to 1 is another tip I'll give. And then the third thing I'll say is this: in business, you're doing 3 things at once at all times, no matter what stage of the game you're in. You're working in the business, so you're answering phone calls, you're delivering orders, you're making sure customers are happy. You work on the business. What does our marketing strategy look like? What does our competitive strategy look like? What are we doing different than our competitors? What are we thinking like for years 3 and 4? And then the third thing is you're working on yourself. What are the books I'm reading? What are the podcasts I'm listening to? What are the things on YouTube I'm watching? Maybe I'm turning off Game of Thrones and I'm throwing on a conference on YouTube that I didn't get to go to. So you're doing those 3 things: in the business, on the business, and on yourself. And if you do that over time, those little things compound into the business growing and you as a founder, as an entrepreneur, evolving into a whole new person. And that's a lot of fun. Once you start to see that, you'll start to get addicted to growing and being successful in business, because when you grow alongside it, you level up. That's a lot of fun.
I love those tips, because you didn't just say work on the business, you said work on yourself. And I think a lot of times people don't understand, just because you have a business, like if you don't grow, the business isn't going to grow, because you have to be a better you, because each level that you get to, you have to be a new you. You can't get to the person that started the business or started the lawn care was a teenager, a kid. He can't run this business. I mean, well, maybe now with the knowledge of these days, but just from that kid now, he wouldn't be able to do it, because you had to grow. You had to get the riding lawnmower. You had to understand how to operate that riding lawnmower, it was different than the push more. So you had to be a new you. And each time you level up, you have to become a better you.
That's
like
right.
my first year of teaching, I can't be that first year of teaching, and this is my 5th year of teaching. These kids would kick my ass. Like
Yes.
it would be ugly out here. I'm like, oh my goodness, I wouldn't know what to do. But and I had to become a better me. My patience. Like I work with little kids, kindergartners. You got to have patience. If you
Yes.
if I didn't learn those patience over the years, I would have quit. So you have to work on not just the business, but yourself as well.
That's right.
I I appreciate you, man. This was a great episode. Like, um, we haven't been able to talk before this, but like you gave a lot of knowledge. Like, I appreciate the value at it. I appreciate what you do because you probably help millions of people all over the world. And some people they actually can't do the yard. They can't, actually get out there, but they want to, and you're able to help them. So you definitely add value not just to the listeners, not just to me, but to people all over because what you do is important. It might not look important to everybody, but if you have a house and you understand the landscaping and the keeping it up, oh yeah, definitely appreciate it. Before you tell people how they can reach you and your business, I need a quote. It could be your quote, it could be something you heard, it could be something you read, but I need a quote from you.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you mentioned Kevin Hart earlier. We can learn a lot from comedians, how they came to grind from doing small shows to big stadiums. And so there's a favorite quote I have from Steve Martin. He's be so good they can't say no. And so when things aren't working, going back to what we just talked about, work on yourself, uh, become a better leader, become better at analyzing maybe a P&L, become better at design or whatever it is that relates to what you're working on. So be so good they can't say no. I think is something that all of us, especially me at times, I want to blame other factors for why things aren't working. When in fact, if I just work on myself, enough, it'll help unstuck things. And so I guess that's a quote that's on top of my mind right now. So I'll leave y'all with that.
I love it. I love it. You work so hard they won't tell you no.
That's right.
Like I love that. You got to. So tell people how they can reach you. How they can reach GreenPal and social media on website. However, if they're in Tennessee, if they're not in Tennessee, how can people reach you?
Yeah, anybody in the United States that doesn't want to waste time mowing your own grass, just go to greenpal.com. Anybody that wants to hit me up, Instagram's the best place to find me. Bryan M. Clayton, just drop me a DM there.
I love it. You can reach me at Underdog Talk Podcast on all social media. Underdog Talk Podcast at gmail.com. If you have good, bad, if you want to be a guest, if you don't remember a guest information, whatever, that's how you can reach me. Again, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on. This was a great episode. Do you have any closing words?
Yeah, get in the game. Get in the game because only when you're in the game can you win. So quit thinking about it. Do it.
I love it. And on that note, peace, one love.